Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously fascinating concept: why our brains are just biologically hardwired to completely freak out over the unknown. You know that feeling when you're paralyzed by a massive life decision or your heart literally pounds over an unanswered email from your boss? Well, you're absolutely going to want to pay close attention to this. We're breaking down the evolutionary biology of uncertainty, but to really get why we stress so much about things we can't control, we got to go way, way back in time. Let's dive right in. I want you to picture this. You're walking through a dense, ancient forest. It's roughly 100,000 years ago. The thick canopy above is blocking out most of the sunlight, and the world around you is wild, untamed, and wildly unpredictable. I mean, every single step takes intense focus. The air is dead still, and then suddenly you hear a sharp rustling in the bushes just a few feet away. In that split second, your stomach absolutely drops. You are suddenly thrust into a terrifying, high-stakes scenario. So, you're faced with the ultimate life or death choice. Do you just assume it's the wind rustling those leaves, or do you immediately assume it's a predator getting ready to pounce? Think about it logically for a second. The ancestors who assumed the worst, the ones who treated every single random sound, shadow, or movement as a deadly threat, they were the ones who actually survived. They bolted, they lived to see another day, and they passed those highly anxious genes directly down to us. The early humans who just optimistically thought, oh, it's probably just a nice cool breeze, well, they often ended up as somebody else's lunch. The thing is, evolution doesn't care if you're a little stressed out by a false alarm. It literally only cares that you survive. Which brings us to part one, built for survival. To really see how this ancient survival system is still operating right inside our modern brains, prioritizing our survival over our actual happiness, we have to look at the brain's main gig. Look, for almost all of human history, life was incredibly fatal. Food was never guaranteed, a sudden storm could wipe out your shelter in minutes, and predators were literally lurking everywhere. Because of that harsh reality, your brain evolved with one primary, uncompromising mission: to keep you alive. It isn't wired to make you happy, and it's certainly not designed to make you a wildly successful entrepreneur. It just wants to keep you breathing. And to pull that off, the human brain became this highly advanced prediction machine. It's constantly scanning the environment, asking, okay, what's going to happen next? To a prediction machine, certainty equals survival. So a lack of data or uncertainty is treated like a massive flashing system error. If the brain can't predict what's coming, it inherently assumes the absolute worst. And that leads us to part two, the negativity bias. Have you ever noticed how waiting for medical test results actually feels physically worse than getting bad news? Or why wondering if that crush likes you back is somehow more agonizing than just knowing they don't? Well, the answer lies in a psychological concept called the negativity bias. When your brain lacks clear information, it absolutely hates the void. So it starts rapidly making up possibilities to fill in those blanks. And it almost always defaults to the negative. Why? Because, as we saw back in that ancient forest, evolution strongly favored false alarms over missed threats. Missing a real danger meant game over. But if you assumed danger and it turned out to just be a harmless shadow, you just wasted a little bit of energy. No big deal. It's exactly why when you wake up at 2 a.m., your brain would much rather assume that pile of laundry on your chair is a lurking assassin instead of just your dirty clothes. Your brain is strictly following that ancient rule today, which makes the uncertainty itself the perceived threat. Moving on to part three, the predictability trap. Let's shift gears and look at the behavioral side of this biology and explore why our brains absolutely love predictability. Just think about your own daily routines for a second. We all have them, right? Morning rituals, ordering the exact same iced coffee for 3 years straight, going to our favorite familiar restaurants, taking the exact same route to work every single day. Humans naturally crave and create routines. We actually willingly put massive chunks of our lives on autopilot. It saves mental energy, sure, but it also artificially manufactures this cozy feeling of safety. Familiar patterns are predictable, and to your ancient survival-obsessed brain, predictability means you are totally safe from predators. Basically, if yesterday looked exactly like today and you survived yesterday, then today must be safe. And this brings us to a pretty powerful realization. You've probably heard the phrase, better the danger you know than the danger you don't. That ancient biological whisper is exactly why so many of us stay in unhappy jobs, linger in toxic relationships, or just completely avoid chasing our dreams. It's not because we're actually comfortable or happy in those situations, it's simply because they're familiar. To really get this, you have to look at the battle happening inside your own head. Your logical mind, your highly evolved prefrontal cortex, might see this amazing, life-changing opportunity in switching careers or moving to a brand new city. But the primitive part of your brain, the amygdala, which acts as your emotional alarm system, just sees unknown territory and flags it as severe danger. It literally prefers a miserable certainty over a potentially amazing uncertainty. Crazy, right?
Let's get into part 4, ancient hardware, modern world.
So here is where we hit some massive friction between the incredibly slow pace of biological evolution and our hyperspeed modern society. Think about it. Ancient threats were entirely physical and immediate. We're talking predators, starvation, intense storms. But modern threats, they're largely psychological and abstract. They're things like unanswered text messages, AI potentially replacing our jobs, or constantly fluctuating social media metrics. The overarching problem here is that your brain hasn't really had time to update its software. It treats every single unknown as something that requires an immediate, life-or-death physiological response. Guys, your body literally releases the exact same surge of adrenaline and stress hormones for a dreaded, unpredictable Zoom meeting as it would if you were being actively chased by a bear. We're out here responding to harmless modern ambiguities with ancient, high-octane panic, and that is the exact recipe for chronic stress and severe decision fatigue.
Just take a look at the number 150. In evolutionary biology and anthropology, this is known as Dunbar's number, and it represents a cognitive limit. Our brains were evolutionarily designed to actively know, trust, and interact with around 150 people in a small, localized tribe. That is the absolute max. But fast forward to today, and the internet and social media expose us to the curated, perfect-seeming lives of millions of people all over the globe 24/7. We are constantly comparing ourselves to strangers, which creates this perpetual state of uncertainty about our own status and our progress. We're always asking, am I doing enough? Am I falling behind? Modern uncertainty completely short-circuits our ancient hardware, simply because we were never built to process this massive, global scale of social information and unpredictability. Which brings us to part 5, outsmarting your brain.
Okay, take a breath. It's not all doom and gloom. While your ancient hardware naturally generates fear when faced with the unknown, your highly developed modern brain has the absolute power to manage and override it. So here's a practical step-by-step method to quiet that ancient panic. Step 1, recognize what's actually happening. When you feel that anxiety spike, just pause and ask yourself, am I facing real physical danger right now, or am I just experiencing uncertainty? Almost every single time, it's just uncertainty. You aren't being hunted. Step 2, accept that uncertainty is simply unavoidable. I mean, nobody on Earth, not billionaires, not elite scientists, not even supercomputers, knows exactly what the future holds. And step 3, and this is the absolute most important one, take action. Action reduces uncertainty neurologically. Instead of sitting around imagining failure, just take one incredibly small step. Research one potential customer, send one quick message, write literally one single sentence of that project. Every single time you take a small action into the unknown and you survive, it gives your brain brand new, safe data to process. It actively teaches your amygdala that the unknown isn't fatal. And here is the ultimate reframe. Growth only exists beyond certainty. Really think about that for a second. Every single meaningful relationship you've ever had, every massive career opportunity, every great adventure, or major scientific discovery in human history started with someone willingly stepping into the unknown. If you demand total certainty before you act, you are essentially demanding stagnation. The people who succeed, the ones who build incredible lives, they aren't the ones who magically possess certainty. They are the ones who have trained themselves to act despite the uncertainty. They lean into the discomfort because they know it's really just a biological illusion.
Finally, our conclusion, thriving in the unknown. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a deeply validating thought. Your brain is not broken. When you feel anxious about the future, you aren't weak. Your brain is doing exactly what millions of years of evolution designed it to do. It is trying its absolute hardest to protect you. It just hasn't quite caught up to the safety of the modern world yet. Today, uncertainty usually isn't a predator hiding in the bushes. It's simply the open space between where you are right now and where you desperately want to be. Your future will always contain unknowns, but those unknowns are exactly where all your potential possibilities live. So I leave you with this final question to ponder. Will you wait until absolutely everything is certain and stay exactly where you are, or will you step forward into possibility? Your ancestors survived by fearing uncertainty, but you get to thrive by learning to live with it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and keep exploring.